Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Vani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Friday, June 20th. We return to trading today as investors weigh tensions between Israel and Iran. This after a muted but mixed close ahead of yesterday's holiday. The Nasdaq was the session's only winner, picking up 23 points or 0.13%. The Dow and the S&P 500 ended down marginally. The Dow off 44 points or 0.1%. The S&P 500 shed just 1 point to close essentially flat. Bill, let's get into Friday's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Good morning, Emily. I'm watching S&Ps. The S&Ps were lower all morning long. We were down like 0.2% all morning long. It just changed. We're now higher by 0.19, essentially 0.2%. We reversed direction, and that's positive. Listen, we know the geopolitical issues in the Middle East are continuing to weigh on the market sentiment. But, these news reports that President Trump plans to make a decision in 2 weeks on potential military action against Iran, it hasn't really yet to be priced into the market yet. And see, because he's taken 2 weeks, this is, kind of a political way of saying that no strikes are imminent and that he's, wants to have discussions and that he wants to try and avoid military action, because if the U.S. gets involved in that, it could get ugly. That's kind of really a positive sentiment, and a change in developments over there. Now, President Trump is scheduled to hold a national security meeting today, later this morning, I think at 11 a.m. Wednesday, we had the Fed, and the Fed officials, hey, they remain on hold as officials continue to wait for inflation data to move higher due to the Trump tariffs, and they don't want to touch rates at this point in time. And the Fed does see slower GDP growth, higher unemployment, and more inflation this year than, their previous projection. That's not really positive. Overnight, Israeli jets, 60 Israeli jets hit nuclear military facilities in that nuclear research site in Iran. Iran returned, the action, and by launching 4 drones that apparently were shot down. Economic calendar a little light today, but next week we get the PMIs, we get consumer confidence, new home sales, durable goods, and PCE data. FDS and KBH are going to be releasing earnings on Monday morning. That's something to keep an eye on. We want to turn our attention over, overseas and see what happens in Europe this morning. Hey, we're showing gains in Europe. I mean, the DAX is up 334 points. That's 1.46%. I mean, that's a nice, strong move higher. The producer prices did slide 1.2% year over year in May, but this is about the action in the Middle East and potential peace talks. The FTSE's up 38 points or 0.44%. Financial stocks are moving higher. You got the CAC up 70 points at 0.93%. Now, there is talk that European and Iranian diplomats are scheduled to meet in Geneva for talks, since, first talk since the war began. So, that's kind of some positive development that's pushing these European equities higher. Then we're turning our attention over to Asia and saw what happened last night. The Nikkei was kind of weak, down 0.22%. What can I say? Japan's core inflation rate rose for the third consecutive month in May, reaching 3.7%. Hong Kong finished higher by 292 points. That's 1.26%. And most of the sectors moved higher, and they were, positive on the White House downplaying their potential involvement in strikes against Iran. So that's good. China, Shanghai market closed flat, down 0.07%. They had that big forum where key economic ministers were speaking, but the event didn't, yield any specific details or new policy measures. So, that kind of took the life out of the market overnight. And then we got to turn our attention over to crude oil, because, crude oil is continuing to be elevated. But, this morning we are seeing weakness. Brent is down 3.28%. You look at WTI, it's trading at $75.19 a barrel, whereas Brent's at $76.25 a barrel. That is, that is really due to, Trump announcing a 2-week delay and decide whether he would join the military action against Iran, and that's really what's causing the weakness. And we could see oil prices, slip further because they're $10 overvalued right now. So, if no military action is done, yeah, oil prices could see a sharp decline. But we'll keep an eye on oil prices, but they're definitely going to be closing higher on the week for the week, Emily.
And Bill, as we start this Friday pre-market, getting us a review of what has been happening, and even with the markets closed yesterday, plenty of information to have been watching, as investors watch what is happening with President Trump and geopolitical tensions. Also giving us that review of what happened with the Fed back on Wednesday really gives us a good feel of what we should be expecting in the markets today. Give us a little overview to then look ahead. And speaking of things that we should review, given there was a holiday yesterday, there wasn't a lot of earnings, but they're starting to pick up again this morning, and some to look ahead to for next week. So let's start there. Bill, what is going on in terms of earnings action?
We're going to start off with ACN, Apple Charlie Nancy. That's Accenture. They beat by 7 cents, and they did it on higher revenue, but their guidance was underwhelming. And if you look at the stock, it's down over 5% this morning. Darden Restaurants, ticker DRI, David Richard India. They beat by a penny. They did it on higher revenue. And the stock's up 3.25%. And then there's CarMax, which ticker symbol KMX, Kilo Michael X-ray. They beat by 21 cents on higher revenue. CarMax is up 9.96% this morning. So yeah, a lot of good earnings that have come out. And then, on Monday morning, you got the FDS, Frank David Sam, that's FactSet. Their EPS is $4.31 with an expected move of 6.67% when they release on Monday morning.
And Bill, now to the day's economic events. You did point out that it might be a little bit light today, but next week we have a big week for data that's worth noting. And then we also are sort of looking back to Wednesday on, what is happening with the Fed. And as you point out, not just their decision on monetary policy, but that dot plot. What are their projections moving forward? So, Bill, let's get into economic events. What is going on
at
there?
8:30 a.m. Eastern time this morning, we get the Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index. At 10 a.m., you get leading indicators, and at 1 p.m., you get the Baker Hughes rig count. In terms of Wednesday and that announcement from the Fed, which was widely expected, the dot plot projections. If you look closely at them, it shows that the central bank is rather divided on the best path forward. I mean, is a narrow majority that are expecting for rate cuts later this year, but specifically 2 rate cuts this year. But there is a growing block that's urging more patience and caution ahead because of the inflation data they expect to be ticking higher due to the Trump tariffs, which haven't been showing up, mainly most likely due to the stockpiling that went on prior to the tariffs going into effect. But they're definitely going to show up in the near future, and that could go. If inflation shows up, it's less likely that the Fed will be cutting interest rates. But for now, we're watching the dot plot, and the dot plot says 2 rate cuts for 2025. And that's what I have for you in terms of an economic update, Emily.
But what I appreciate about that sort of nuanced look at this information is that you're combining all of your historical knowledge along with your newsware to really dig into the details. So it's not just what the announcement was or just the commentary, but really digging in to see the dot plot and what those may indicate moving forward. You dig into those earnings reports and you also look at details, everything from facts, news, and data, things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, catalyst calls. You do this every morning, breaking down your newsware into alerts. So you're gathering this information. You're also looking at your stocks grouped together, like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks, giving us a nuanced look at what is expected for the day ahead. So, Bill, what else do you see as possibly moving the markets today?
I'm doing a quick data check here. I'm looking at my Dow Select. I got 16 higher, 12 lower, and 2 unchanged. It's tilting green. It's tilting green. That is clear. But I'm looking at my, this morning I am looking at my FANG stocks. They're heavily weighted, and it's mixed. I mean, Apple and Google are a little lower, but the rest are trading higher. So yeah, that's interesting. Some news behind the tape like Google, it is trading a little off. It's down about 30 cents this morning because EU regulators hit Google with a fine due to their dominance over their Google search on the Android. Meta Platforms, ticker META, up, about 0.3%. Meta CEO apparently has been in talks to become a Trump advisor. Interesting. It never happened, but apparently it was. There were talks going on. And Tesla, hey, Tesla's showing a strong gain, up 1.76% this morning. Remember, they got that robo taxi launch that's happened in like 2 days. Now, politicians are asking them to delay, but I think they move forward with it, and we'll see. I don't know if they're really ready for these robo taxis, but they're moving forward, and we'll see how it comes off. There'll probably be very few taxis, maybe like 2 or 3. Not bad. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stocks, we got to talk about Home Depot, HD. They submitted a competing bid to take over GMS, Grace Michael Sam. Amazon, UK regulators are probing Amazon over possible late payments to suppliers. Apple, the EU is delaying DMA penalties on Apple and Meta. Even if they miss the compliance deadline, they're going to delay the penalties. They're going to delay. Why? Because of the trade talks. They don't want to piss anything off during the trade talks. In terms of merger news, Stellantis, STLA, they're talking about possibly selling their Maserati unit. QXO, they submitted an unsolicited proposal to buy GMS for about $5 billion or $95.20 a share. Now, Home Depot's out there doing the same. They're putting out a similar bid. So, GMS has got a decision to make. Do you want to go with QXO or Home Depot? But either way, those shareholders are going to see some gains. In terms of guidance news, Accenture, ticker ACN, they see Q4 revenue coming in 17 billion to 17.6 billion. Street estimate was at 17.09, and that's weaker than the high estimate here. So yeah, a little scary. Darden Restaurants, ticker DRI. They see full year 2026 revenue coming in $10.50 to $10.70. Street estimate had it at $9.53. That's an uptick. That's a nice uptick. In terms of shareholders meeting, CAVA, Charlie Apple, Victor Apple, Kava Group is having a shareholders meeting today at 10 a.m. GitLab, ticker GTLB. They're having a shareholders meeting today at 11:30 a.m. In terms of buyback news, Darden, DRI, they announced a 1 billion share buyback program. Fair Isaac Corp, ticker FICO, they announced a 1 billion share buyback program. And that's what I have for you about news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us to end this week?
I'm going to go with Salesforce.com, ticker CRM, Charlie Richard Mary. I mean, the news flow has been positive. It remains positive while the stock's just been getting beat up. So I think it's going to turn today. I think we're going to see a nice rally today. I look at Wednesday's call volume, 23,000 versus the put volume of 83,000. It's very negative, very bearish, but I think it's about to change. And, open interest remains positive, 349K versus 263K. Major brokers still like it. They got price targets around 300 on the stock. So listen, if I can get in under 259, I think I'll get my 1% gain there. So, that's my pick of the day. CRM, Charlie Richard Mary, under 259, Emily.
Salesforce it is on this Friday. We will follow that along with you. And before we sign off for the weekend, we will do a recap on Wednesday's pick of the day. So stick with us through that. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
ACN down 5% after Q3 results and updated guidance. Yep, it was the guidance. Trump officials pause, then resume immigration raids in key economic sectors. PDD, TermU, PDD group, the stock's getting hit. Their U.S. sales apparently are really getting hit, really trading lower to the Trump tariffs. Uber expands Uber AI solutions. Chevron showing some weakness as oil prices start to move lower. CVX. Paramount Global, ticker PARA, fearing backlash delays a $35 million settlement with Trump, according to reports. I mean, Trump's the president. When he sues you, you basically have to give it up. And that's what these broadcast networks are doing because they can't afford to lose the FCC license. And that's a retribution that would fall upon them if they don't settle. So they're kind of forced to settle, even though they don't believe that they needed to. But I believe there'll be more issues on this in the near future. Yeah, it's a little light flow. Gilead, ticker GILD. The FDA approved their HIV prevention drug on Wednesday. I mean, this is a blockbuster drug. It's like 99% effective in prevention. So, I mean, Gilead's got a good, powerful drug there. Regeneron, REGN, the FDA approved their drug for treatment of rare skin diseases. Okay. Smith & Wesson Brands, SWBI, sees Q1 pricing down 5 to 10%. That's all I'm seeing this morning.
Okay, Bill, before we dive into trading on this Friday and sign off for the weekend, let's do that check-in on Wednesday's pick of the day, which was Kroger. They did release earnings this morning. They reported a Q1 EPS of $1.49. That was 4 cents better than the analyst estimates. Revenue for the quarter came in at $45.12 billion. This was slightly below estimates of $45.28 billion. In terms of guidance, they see full year 2026 EPS $4.60 to $4.80. The consensus here had been towards the higher end of that, $4.76. Overall, not a terrible report there. The stock has been sort of teetering around the same mark all morning today. But Bill, how did your call work out?
It didn't. I mean, listen, the earnings came in good. You know, the stock's trading higher this morning, but the weakness that came in on Wednesday afternoon just kind of ruined the trade. It's flat essentially. I mean, it's on Wednesday the stock opened up at 66 and they had a high of 66.18. Then it fell apart, closing down to 66.52. I mean, you look at it this morning; it's already hit 66.60, which makes it a flat trade. But it was it's up higher. It does seem to be moving with some strength, but it's kind of a flat trade, Kroger, even though the earnings were positive, Emily.
That is a flat trade there, Bill. Could have been worse. So we will call that flat, and we will also check in with you on Monday about today's Salesforce pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here Monday and each weekday morning next week at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.